My parents didn't just cut me off, they made sure I had nothing, not even a place to sleep, while showering my brother, Ethan, with everything he wanted. I remember standing in our driveway, clutching the last box of my belongings, as my mom said, "Andrea, you'll figure it out, maybe this will teach you a lesson." I didn't even know what lesson she meant. 3 months later, while I was still struggling to pay rent, Ethan was getting a brand new car as a gift for all his hard work. But they didn't know, every sleepless night, every tear I wiped away alone, I was quietly building something that would change everything. And before I tell you exactly what I was building, make sure you're following, sharing, and saving this, because you're not ready for the twist that's coming. It all started the night they invited me over for a family dinner. I almost didn't go, but my dad's voice on the phone was unusually warm, almost rehearsed. When I walked in, Ethan was at the center of the table, smiling like he owned the world, while my parents went on and on about his new promotion. "See, Andrea," my mom said loudly, "when you focus on real goals instead of silly dreams, life rewards you." Every laugh from them felt like a slap. I kept my face neutral, but inside, I was screaming. Then, mid-meal, my dad leaned closer and said, "So, you've been struggling, huh? Maybe it's time you accept you'll never be like Ethan." I wanted to snap, to tell them about the late nights I'd spent turning my small idea into something bigger than they could imagine, but I stayed quiet. Because the moment I'd reveal it, I wanted the shock to burn. What I didn't know then was that Ethan's perfect little life was about to explode in front of all of us, starting with the knock on the door that changed everything. The knock was so hard it made everyone jump. My dad frowned, muttering something about neighbors and their nonsense as he went to open the door. But instead of a neighbor, 2 uniformed police officers stepped inside, their eyes scanning the room. Until they landed on Ethan. "Ethan Miller?" one of them asked. My brother's cocky grin faltered. Yeah, that's me." "You're under arrest for fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement," the taller officer said, pulling out a pair of handcuffs. My mom's fork clattered onto her plate, and my dad's face drained of color. "What? There must be a mistake." My mom shrieked, scrambling to her feet, but the officer kept reading the charges: numbers, transactions, stolen accounts, things that made even me feel sick. Ethan stammered, I didn't, it's not what it looks like." But they didn't stop. The handcuffs clicked shut, and my golden boy brother suddenly looked like a scared little kid. I should have felt shocked. I should have felt sorry. But all I felt was the tiniest spark of satisfaction. My parents, still frozen in place, kept repeating, "This can't be happening." The officers started leading him out, but not before Ethan turned back to me. His eyes were wild, almost desperate. "Andrea, please," my mom's head snapped toward me like I'd caused all of this. "Don't you dare enjoy this," she hissed under her breath. "We'll fix it. We always fix it." That's when I realized, they weren't panicking because their son might go to prison. They were panicking because they knew they'd have to face the public without their perfect child to brag about. And for the first time in years, they actually looked powerless. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, letting the chaos unfold, knowing they had no idea that I was sitting on something that could destroy every last bit of their fake superiority, and in less than 24 hours, they were going to find out exactly how much power I really had. My dad's voice was shaking as he tried to reason with the officers. "Listen, there has to be some misunderstanding. My son comes from a good family, we can settle this privately." But the officer's tone was ice cold. "Sir, your son has been under investigation for 6 months. We have everything we need." Ethan's face turned pale. 6 months? His eyes darted between my parents. "Why didn't you tell me?" But they had no answer, because clearly, they didn't know. The truth was, the golden boy they worshipped had been stealing from his own company for months, and now the law had caught up. My mom lunged toward Ethan, clutching his arm like she could pull him out of this nightmare. "We'll hire the best lawyer, baby. Don't worry, mommy's got you." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw her perfect facade slip. My dad was already pulling out his phone, calling someone he referred to as our guys in a panicked whisper. "And me?" I sat in silence, my fingers tapping the side of my chair, biting back the urge to laugh. Not because I enjoyed seeing my brother in trouble, but because for years, I had been painted as the family's failure, the reckless one who would never amount to anything. Tonight, the perfect image they built had shattered, and I didn't even have to lift a finger. The officers began walking Ethan toward the door. My mom followed them, still pleading, "We can explain. He didn't mean it. This will ruin his future." I stood slowly, walking toward the living room where they all stood. "Funny," I said, my voice calm but sharp, "you didn't worry about ruining my future when you cut me off." My mom spun around, her face twisted with panic and anger. "Andrea, not now. This is family business." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, so I'm family again? Last I checked, I was disposable." Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't reply. My dad was too busy on the phone to even acknowledge me. The police opened the front door, and as the night air swept in, Ethan turned his head over his shoulder, giving me one last look. There was no arrogance now, only fear, and in that moment, I knew I had them exactly where I wanted them. Because in less than a day, they were going to need something only I could give. And when they asked, I wasn't going to just say no, I was going to make them regret every single word they'd ever said to me. That night, the house was quieter than I'd ever heard it. No clinking of glasses, no bragging about Ethan's latest achievements, just the sound of my mom pacing and my dad making desperate phone calls in the kitchen. I sat in the corner, pretending to scroll on my phone, but really, I was memorizing every frantic word. They called lawyers, old friends, even a couple of shady business contacts I'd never heard of. Each call ended the same way, with my dad rubbing his forehead and muttering, "This is going to cost us everything." Good, I thought. Around midnight, my mom finally broke the silence. "Andrea," she said carefully, "you have some savings, right?" I almost laughed. "Savings? You mean the savings I had to build after you threw me out? Those savings?" Her tone shifted instantly, sharper now. "This isn't about the past. Your brother's in trouble, and we're family. We need to come together." I tilted my head. When I was in trouble, where was that family? Her eyes flashed with irritation, but she tried to soften her voice again. "Sweetheart, you don't understand. If Ethan goes to prison, our name, our reputation, will be destroyed." I leaned forward. "You mean your reputation? Don't pretend. This is about love or loyalty. This is about keeping your little circle of rich friends from whispering about you at the country club." That hit a nerve. Her jaw tightened. My dad finally walked in, his face pale. "Andrea, we need $250,000 for bail. We'll pay you back." I couldn't stop the smirk that crept onto my face. "Interesting. 3 months ago, you told me you didn't have spare money when I begged you to help me cover my rent. Now you're asking for $250,000. My mom's voice cracked. "Please, Andrea. Think about your brother. He's young. He made a mistake." "No," I cut in, my tone cold. "He didn't make a mistake. He made a choice. And so did you, when you chose him over me every single time." The silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. My dad finally spoke, his voice low. "Andrea, if you don't help us, Ethan's life is over." I stood up slowly, letting the weight of my next words hang in the air. "Funny? I rebuilt my life without any of you. Let's see if he can do the same." I walked toward the door, my heart pounding, not from guilt, but from the knowledge that this was just the beginning. Because tomorrow, when the whole town found out what happened, my parents would be desperate for more than just money, and when they came crawling again, they'd discover just how powerful their failure of a daughter had become. By the next morning, the news had already spread. Ethan's arrest was plastered all over local headlines. Prominent family's son accused of $1 million fraud, with a smiling photo of him from one of my parents' many charity galas. Every phone in their house was buzzing non-stop, not with offers to help, but with neighbors, so-called friends, and business associates suddenly distancing themselves. When I pulled up outside their house later that day, I could see through the big living room window, my parents sitting on opposite ends of the couch, looking 10 years older than they had yesterday. My mom's makeup was smudged, my dad's tie hung loose, and their perfect world had crumbled overnight. I stepped inside without knocking. My mom looked up, her voice hoarse. "Andrea, we need to talk." "I'm sure you do," I replied, taking a seat like I owned the place. My dad wasted no time. "We need more than bail now. The legal fees, the investors pulling out of my company. Andrea, we're drowning." I let that sink in for a moment before I spoke. It's funny. While you were busy pretending I didn't exist, I was building something. A tech consultancy. Started small, worked from my one-bedroom apartment, took on clients nobody wanted. And now? I leaned back, savoring the silence. Now, my company is worth more than your company ever was. I own 3 properties, I have 0 debt, and my name is on contracts with people who wouldn't even take your calls today. Their eyes widened, the shock written all over their faces. You're lying, my mom whispered. I pulled out my phone and slid it across the coffee table. On the screen was a news article from just last week. Andrea Miller signs $12 million deal with global firm. My picture was right there, smiling in a tailored suit they'd never seen me wear. The silence was delicious. My dad finally spoke. His voice small. Andrea, we could really use your help right now. We're family. I cut him off. No. You only remember we're family when it benefits you. I begged for your help when I was at my lowest, and you shut the door in my face. Now, I'm returning the favor. My mom's voice cracked, tears in her eyes. Please, people are saying things about us. I stood, looking down at them, 2 people who had always looked down on me. Then maybe it's time you learn how it feels to be talked about. Maybe it's time you live in the same world you forced me into. I headed for the door, pausing just long enough to deliver the final blow. Oh, and don't worry about your mortgage. I heard the bank's been trying to reach you. I'll give them a call, but not to save you. I walked out into the sunlight, my car, bought in cash, gleaming in the driveway. As I pulled away, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw them standing in the doorway, small, fragile, and completely powerless. For the first time in years, I felt free. Not just because I had succeeded without them, but because I had the one thing they could never buy back, my self-respect, and that was worth more than all their money combined.